Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from True Off My Chest. Our first post is by Unfortunate Wife. TikTok ruined my marriage. I, 37F, am going through a divorce from my husband, 43M, because he is not the same person I married anymore. We have been married for 12 years. We have 2 daughters. I thought everything was perfect in our life. We had good communication, a good life. There were arguments, but we solved those as a team. Until one day my husband started obsessing over the traditional life. We were not a traditional couple. We both work, we both do chores and childcare. He didn't complain about it. Around March this year, he started acting weird. He complained about how I looked. He complained about the food. He complained about me working long hours. I work the same hours as he does. Throughout our marriage, he never had any complaints about the food I cook. I dress up in a more comfortable attire when I am in my house. He never had a problem with that, ever. It all started to change when he started to consume traditional TikTok videos. I noticed he watches videos of a certain popular TikTok girl who posts content about being a traditional wife. Her contents look made up and not realistic to me because it was 100% made for the male audience. From there, my husband started complaining. Why can't you dress like her when you are at home? Why don't you cook like her? I wish I had a wife like her who was waiting for me to come home. You do not love me because you do not see me as an authority in my own house. I tried to reason with him. He wanted me to quit my job and be a full-time housewife. I told him it was not possible with our current income. Then he started to share all those videos on different social media. The verbal abuse didn't just stop there. It was almost regular. He would constantly tell me I am not worthy, that he needs a wife who is submissive like that TikToker. I told him this was all an act that she puts up for the world to see. This is not reality. Plus, nobody cleans their house wearing pretty dresses. The dresses will get dirty. My husband would ignore me. He would always compare me to his friend's wife who is a homemaker. He knew I wasn't the type of woman who wanted to be a homemaker. He had no problem with it. I tried to tell him to stop watching these type of contents. It really hurts me that he would idolize another woman rather than his wife. My last straw came when I caught him talking to another woman. He wasn't even ashamed or felt remorse. He told me he deserves better. Now here I am waiting for my divorce to finalize. He has already moved on with the type of girl that he wanted. I don't know why it happened. How did I lose a sweet, loving husband overnight over something stupid? Our next post is by Blank Space. I wrote a note to my valedictorian that made her leave the school with no consequences. Years ago, when I was in high school, there was a girl at the top of our class. We'll call her May. May was known for being very quiet and timid, anxious and antisocial. She had long bushy hair that reached pretty much her backside, and she always brought a messy stack of books and papers to each class. Despite not needing them for anything, everyone felt bad for her. She was seemingly incredibly intelligent but crippled by anxiety. But one day, in a class we shared, I realized she was writing answers for a test on the desk and covering them with her hair. If you write on a desk in pencil, it can be easily wiped away with your hand. And that's exactly what she did after the exam. She was a cheater. I talked to another kid in our class, James, and he said, "Oh yeah, May always cheats. Everyone of the students pretty much knows that." She would apparently even write answers on the strewn papers in her desk pile. Nobody wanted to get someone like May in trouble. But frankly, as someone just outside the top 5 in my class, it made me livid that May could just cheat blatantly with everyone letting it slide, all the way into the valedictorian position. That makes a major difference for scholarships and everything, and we came from a pretty poor area. She was also an officer in the National Honor Society, and while I know that means nothing now, at the time I thought, wow, she has no honor, this is ridiculous. One day, in the math class me and my friend Kevin shared with May, we had a substitute teacher who didn't really care what we spent the class period doing. So I wrote in a careful, bubbly print that was nothing like my typical handwriting, a note to May, basically saying, "Hey, everyone knows you cheat, and if you don't knock it off, we'll be forced to tell the National Honor Society what you did." So cringe looking back. I don't think I really would have done anything with the note. Of course, the fact that I wrote it in different handwriting says differently. But Kevin was joking that he would give the note to May, and I was joking back. But to my shock, he did give it to May by sneakily putting it on the side of her messy desk. She noticed it eventually and must have read it. We had lunch next, and May was sobbing, literally losing it at her lunch table. The friends she sat with all encouraged her to go to the office about whatever happened, and she eventually did. I started to freak out because I never thought she'd react like that, and I was someone who never got in trouble. My mother would kill me if I did. So I was terrified of getting called up. I just wanted May to stop cheating. Towards the end of my next class, it happened. My science teacher said I was called to the office, and I felt my soul leave my body. I went up and walked into the principal's office. Imagine my shock when he wanted to talk about something completely different. He heard from my ex's new girlfriend that I was going to beat her up, which was wildly untrue. We both laughed about it, and he said he didn't think that was true but had to check. Then he just asked casually, "Before you go, do you have any idea what happened in your math class earlier?" I simply said no idea and tried to be convincing. He said okay, and I walked back to class. Later that day, I realized some of May's lunch table group seemed angry with me. May had gone home early, but her friends seemed ready to fight me based on the looks I was being given. I was so anxious that they knew I had written the note. At the very end of the day, I walked into the office and asked the vice principal, my volleyball coach. I was terrible, and we didn't win a single game in 4 years, just so people don't think my athletic prowess saved me here, if I could speak with the principal. He said the principal had already left for the day. I straight up said, I wrote the note to May, it was me. I lied to the principal earlier. Our next post is by Afraid Bill. My wife left me for another man, and after he got her pregnant, he left her. 9 months later, she showed up at my door. So my wife and I were married for 6 years and together for 9 when she left me. We were high school sweethearts, and I thought we had an amazing relationship. We were one of those couples that everyone was jealous of. I was head over heels for her, and I thought she was for me too. We had always talked about having a family, and for the first 3 years of our marriage, we were actively trying. However, we found out that I was infertile, and we were devastated. It sent my wife into a depression, and for a while, I thought our marriage was going to fail. It was a really rough time for us. However, we eventually came to the decision that we would try to save up for in vitro fertilization, and that if that didn't work, we would look into other options. So we spent the next 2 years saving up every penny we could. It was hard, but we both really wanted children. I thought we were doing really well, and I thought that our marriage was stronger than ever. We finally had enough money to undergo the procedure, and we were just about to make an appointment when my wife told me that she was having second thoughts. She said that she was worried that she would not be able to love a non-biological child as much as a biological one. I told her that I understood her concerns, but that I thought we should try anyways. She said she needed time to think about it. A few weeks later, she told me that she had made up her mind and that she did not want to go through with IVF. I was very disappointed, but I told her that I loved her and that I would support her in whatever she wanted to do. I told her that we could look into other options. However, she said that she had actually made up her mind about something else. She said that she had been seeing someone else for a few months and that she was in love with him. She said that she was moving in with him. I was completely blindsided. There had been no signs of this at all. I was completely devastated. I begged her to reconsider, but she said that her mind was made up. She left, and that was the last time I ever saw her. I was a complete wreck for a long time. I had no idea that anything was wrong in our marriage, and I had no idea that she was seeing someone else. I was in a very dark place for a long time, and I thought about ending things. However, I eventually sought therapy, and with the help of a therapist, I was able to work through my feelings and get to a better place. I was able to move on, and I eventually started dating again. However, I still thought about my ex-wife from time to time, and I always wondered what had happened to her. I had no way of contacting her, as she had changed her phone number and all of her social media accounts. So I was completely shocked when, 3 years after she left me, she showed up at my door. At first, I thought she was there to apologize for what she had done to me. But then I saw that she was holding a baby. She said that she needed to talk to me. She had a baby from him, and he dumped her after she gave birth. She is begging me to take her back, and I don't know what to do. Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.